horizontal pull-aparts. Your hands are going to be basically next to each other in front of you, fully extended arms, gripping the resistance band on either side. And then you're going to stretch that resistance band apart by pulling apart the band and try to bring your hands all the way back to the lateral side of your body while your arms are fully extended. What would then happen is the resistance band would then be touching your chest. That's the full version. Now, obviously, maybe you don't have the requisite strength or the requisite stability or mobility necessary to do that. So you can always do half reps. You can always do 3/4 reps. You can always do quarter reps, depending on the level of the resistance band and the level of your strength. You're pretending you have a bow in one hand, and then you're drawing that arrow back, right, with that bowstring in the other hand. Only you're going to use the resistance band. You may need to double up the resistance band or just choke up on the resistance band in order to feel some tension. You have to play with the type of resistance band you have, how much resistance is in that resistance band, and how much range of motion you're trying to travel in that bow and arrow pull. So whether the resistance band is looped underneath your legs or underneath your feet, or it's tied off to something low and behind you, you're going to be in a kneeling position, and then you're going to do an overhead tricep extension. Now, the beauty of this is you can have the resistance band tied off to something directly behind your head, and then you don't have to get into that really high elbow position or overhead extension with your humerus or your arm. And if you don't have the requisite mobility, this is a great alternative to the tricep extension, because those elbows can be kind of in front of you and far further forward and still get that activation and engagement in the tricep. The band is going to actually be around the upper back and through each hand. In that position, it's just adding extra resistance to a regular push-up. So you're still focusing on the fundamentals of the regular push-up. So think ankle, knee, hip, shoulder, ear in perfect alignment. Think squeezing your front of your thigh or your quads. Think about squeezing your glutes or your butt, squeezing your abs, keeping your abs nice and engaged, and keeping your shoulders down and back and your scapula nice and engaged with a proud chest as you do the resistance band push-ups. You're going to be stepping on the resistance band, putting both hands through the resistance band, and then curling it up in a regular curl type fashion. Now, obviously, abs need to stay nice and engaged, but you may need to have a slight bend in the knee, maybe a slight bend in the hip, with the abs engaged, shoulders down and back, and the chest proud. Another way to do the standing curl, if that horizontal type position, almost like mimicking a barbell or something, doesn't quite work, you can do sort of a hammer curl where you're actually grabbing the vertical part of the resistance band and hammer curling it up. Think about keeping your elbows nice and tight to the sides, shoulders down and back, and keep your elbows from driving too far back behind you as you do the curl. That's going to increase the amount of tension you're going to feel in your biceps. You're going to step on the resistance band, grip anywhere on the resistance band, and then you're just doing a forward shoulder raise. So basically you're raising your hands up in front of your face. A couple of things you want to think about when you're doing the forward shoulder raise. Think about keeping your elbows slightly bent. Think about keeping your chest nice and proud and shoulders down and back. Packing the shoulder this way protects the shoulder and actually creates the movement with the deltoid while supporting the movement with your core. Another thing to think about is sometimes you can have some extra strain in your lower back. So think about tightening your abs while you're doing the forward shoulder raise as well. You're either starting with your right or you're starting with your left. One foot is going to be stepping on the resistance band, and then that same side hand is going to be looped into the resistance band. And then you're doing a basic overhead press, but you're doing it with just one hand. This is going to really help you focus on maybe any sort of asymmetries or imbalances you might have by doing it unilaterally. Unilaterally meaning just one side. So you just focus on one side and then you do the other side, and maybe you realize that you're not as strong or you don't last as long. By doing it alternately, you can hyper focus on one arm instead of kind of not realizing the asymmetries as you do both arms at the same time. Stepping both feet onto the band, you're gonna put one loop of the band around one hand or into one hand and the other loop of the band into the other hand. And then you're going to row in a basically a hinge down row position. So think about your hip hinge. So drive your butt back to the wall behind you. Keep your chest nice and proud, shoulders down and back as you lower that chest down towards the ground and pick up those bands. Staying in that position with your abs nice and engaged. You shouldn't feel any undue strain in your lower back. Nice and strong with the upper back muscles, and you're rowing. Think about keeping your elbows as tight to your sides as possible in that row position. You can row your elbows up even with your torso, or you can row your hands all the way up to think about trying to bring those hands towards your hips as you row.